here we are. This is Sex Love Psychedelics, and I'm your host, Dr. Kat, bringing you psychosexual conversations that will leave you intellectually turned on and hungry for more.
So you brought up a term, the concept of pimp. And we brought up this, the idea of OnlyFans versus stripper clubs versus, in these terms that we use. And it's interesting too how we create terms that are more digestible for us to use. Like, oh, I will be somebody's manager for their OnlyFans. I'm not their pimp. Or, it's like, oh, I'm going to consume OnlyFans because that's okay and that's legal and that's, this or the other. But that's not me consuming sex work. And so I think it's important to call forward what this is so that we can reduce some of the stigma that we have around here. I think some of the arguments for OnlyFans was a place to create freedom and safety for sex workers, put the power back into them. But there's also arguments that it's increased the potential for abuse and coercion. Because there's these, management companies, or there's these, who's actually running the show here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it does. And I also think that what ends up happening with those third party sites, and anytime someone wants to work in a legal economy, is that it's highly regulated and often highly stigmatized. And so, for example, someone cannot even say drunk on OnlyFans. Can't even bring in alcohol, right? Much less say hi or a drug name or anything like that. Because we're seeing just the massive amount of censoring of both the sex trade and drug use online.
Yeah.
And there's so many different things that people can and cannot do. I've actually seen sex workers who have created like vast spreadsheets with different, DIY porn sites that have the different regulations so people can navigate that.
Oh, I need that.
Right? Yeah, it's really amazing. People are just like giving stuff to community because all the time people are trying to post things that can't be posted or being taken down. And so it takes people's individuality away. It takes their ability to work away. And there's a large cut that these companies are taking, right? 20% of everything, including tips. And so I think that's one of the trade-offs of working in a regulated market, right? And people are making that decision all the time if they want to work in a regulated market, where they might be able to have more autonomy, but then also have more risk. And so there's some things that are hard. I also just don't think that these programs at all are actually addressing trafficking. I think that they have these really high barriers to not being able to say this, or that, or be able to show this, or that. And we think that's preventing trafficking. But when people are trying to report abuse on their site or report trafficking or ask for their page to be taken down, and for some reason it won't, but their trafficker is after them, they don't respond. They don't do anything about it.
Wow, that's so interesting. It's almost like this faux action, or I don't even. I believe that there could be a positive intention beneath it, or like, initially, like originally a wanting to create safety, but in fact this is impeding a lot of the public health or the well-being of practitioners and consumers, really. I mean, I'm thinking about myself, which on Instagram, I just had to change everything because all of my harm reduction videos around psychedelics and around sexuality were taken down. And it wasn't showing me to new followers. And that had been going on, and I'd been fighting it and just being like, well, I'm just gonna push through it. And it really caused me as a creator to become hesitant in my own body to put things out. It diluted my art. It diluted what I could provide for people. And I think that that's the challenging part around this regulation. Are we censoring with the intention to create safety, but actually causing more harm because nobody can find the support?
Yeah. No, I am sorry, first off, to hear that happens. I cannot imagine just the amount of just like dread that comes with that. And I also think, I actually, and you're probably being more compassionate to people than I am, because I don't think that people actually have, like, I don't think that these top level executives have safety in mind. I think they have liability in mind.
Ooh.
And so I think that people are making big business decisions off of liability and not off of the actual care for their creators or the people who are using.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, they don't want to be held responsible for this, but it's under the guise of this is for your safety.
Yeah, and I just to share something that happened to me, kind of in a similar vein, that was just so frustrating, was that before we published, actually, Synergetic Press published Body Autonomy. We had a self-published version called Towards Bodily Autonomy that we had, put up on Amazon and all the different sites, and in order to do well, which we did for a self-published book, but in order to really do well, we had to rely on reviews. That's usually how, all your channel and mine, right, are going to do well. And they took my money to be able to post my book that had sex work and drug use in the title. However, people who tried to leave reviews told me they couldn't, because Amazon's sensitivity filter was blocking them being able to actually leave reviews that talked about some of the things the book put forward. And so that was really frustrating, because it's not like that was anything transparent, or that I heard anyone else really dealing with it.
Well, that was fun. Thanks for tuning in, lovers. And if you want to experience more ecstasy and sexual liberation, head over to sexlovepsychedelics.com and learn about how you can join me for any one of my online or live events. And while you're there, grab my free guide on sex and psychedelics. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please contact your healthcare provider and local law before pursuing any of the products or psychedelics discussed. And one final note here. I make this show specifically for you. If you're loving the show, then be sure to leave me a review in iTunes or Spotify to let me know. Happy to be here and happy to serve. I'll see you next time on Sex Love Psychedelics.